Hey guys, nice to have you back again. In this episode, I want to discuss a little bit more about what is running in cloud, right? Just kind of walk you through and talk you through all the avenues of what are the servers that are running on cloud. Is it similar to the servers that are running on premise at a data center, and what to expect from the different cloud providers as far as the compute resources that they have provided. I want to also specifically go into more detail on what type of servers are running on the World Wide Web. Pretty much on the internet, everything that you're using, what type of servers are running there. And I want to also go further into the different type of compute resources to use depending on what kind of solution you're trying to build. Is it a database server that you're running? Is it a front-end web server or website that you're running? So I want to go further into that and discuss that as well. So come along with me and we'll walk through this together and talk through it as well. Thank you. As discussed briefly before, when an organization wants to move their compute resources over to cloud, there's a few things that they have to keep in mind before moving their workload. A few of those things are financial, budgeting, and flexibility. They have to go through a phase where they define what their expected budget for cloud migration is. Also, allowing for flexibility. They don't want to set themselves up for failure or going over their financial expected budget. Having that flexibility by setting a range to accommodate unexpected costs would preferably be a good idea. Another is having a strategic plan. Developing a clear plan for moving services over to cloud. For instance, if they have already a service on premise and they're considering a hybrid model, what can they do in order to make this happen? Determine the purpose of cloud usage. For example, going back to that hybrid model, let's say a customer has their databases running on premise and they would like full visibility and management of those database servers. They're integrating it with an application or web services that's hosted within their cloud environment, looking for a way to integrate that workload and extend it from what they already have on premises into cloud. Being able to determine during the planning phase the purpose of cloud usage. For instance, are you using it as replicas in order to not a lot of strain or have all of your resources be utilized on your on-premise servers? Another thing would be, for instance, having failover or disaster recovery scenarios where you have some data that's readily available from your on-premises. You have another site that's holding that same data for failover or disaster recovery scenarios. Another thing to also keep in mind, what type of traffic are you forecasting? Being able to assess the anticipated user traffic for your cloud hosted applications is a good thing to keep in mind. It's actually a very important thing. You want to make sure that your high availability for your users and to minimize downtime for your consumers as much as you can. Another would be compute and processing resources. Being able to choose the right resources for your solution is always the best thing to be aware of before moving to cloud. For instance, let's say you have a lot of remote users or remote employees that work for your company. Instead of having like actual virtual machines or EC2 instances, you could spin up or create a subscription within Office 365 where you have Azure virtual desktops or Windows virtual desktops where they can log into that remotely via their own devices connecting to the VPN. That saves you a lot of costs. Also being able to procure the laptops that these remote employees have to use. A few of those resources also can be broken down into different types. For instance, the native virtual machine, right? Whether it's an EC2 instance of virtual machine running within Azure. This is the simplistic infrastructure as a service where you, for the most part, pay for what you get. You don't have to run these servers within your data center. You pretty much spin them up within AWS under your subscriptions or Azure or any other cloud provider. And that would be the native virtual machine. Another is the microservices where you have Docker or Kubernetes running within your cloud environment. Also, let's say you have a quick turnaround where you have to create this application right away, right? And you have a lot of developers that you employ, not a lot of systems administrators. You just want to be able to quickly create or develop this service or this application. A lot of companies take advantage of serverless computing within AWS. Allows for the developers to only worry about developing their code. So they log into kind of an environment and they start coding. You don't have to worry about, it's not running on any Windows or Linux machines, so they don't have to worry about tweaking environmental variables in order for their code to run. So they won't get any blockages there. Another to look for is some customers since would rather have a standalone server running within their own Solitude rack. This allows for them to be able to utilize these resources and subscribe to these resources on their own. So they won't have any other customers that will be running their workloads on that same server. That could be great for a lot of big corporations that have the fortitude or the financial power to be able to subscribe to that type of service within cloud. And like I mentioned before in the beginning, having VMware or WVD or Office 365's AVD running within a non-native VNet or VPC is another type of resource that could be part of the choices there for compute resources within cloud. Just to go further into the aspect of financial budgeting when in cloud, let's take a look at the different cloud providers and what they have to offer as far as compute resources and their pricing. Let's ask Copilot. If I spell it right, calculate. There we go. So pricing calculator for Azure. Let's check this out. So as you could see, there's this one for virtual machines. That's where we want to go because a lot of the processing compute resources that we're looking for are within virtual machines. Everything else here is not an IaaS service. It's more of storage, SQL database, app services, so on and so forth. But we can also check those out because they are some kind of a processing of data type of service, right? So also we have your Azure Kubernetes services, in other words, AKS. And then there's a little section here where you can manage and monitor your cloud costs, set a budget, and get alerts if you need that as well, in case you go over your put out budget. So let's go ahead and estimate what would virtual machines cost, right? Let's go ahead and estimate that. All right, so for this particular virtual machine, oh, also I wanted to add this. If you ever want to play around within Azure or any other cloud provider, they usually allow you like credit of some kind to start out. Usually it lasts for a year or so. For instance, Azure here has a $200 credit plus free monthly amounts of popular services that they have on there for the first 12 months. So make sure to take advantage of that and get some practical knowledge in using these cloud services. All right, so right here we have our virtual machine. It's in the East US region. You can select any region you want. And as you know, different regions have different costs. So, for this particular service that you're choosing for Windows, let's say operating system, may be different from what we have in West US 2 to what we would have in UK South, for instance. So for this one, we'll just test it out. We'll select Central US. We'll have a Windows operating system. If you want to include an SQL server services on top of the Windows operating system or the actual server or the VM there, you can do that. But we'll just do OS only. Tier. Usually Azure gives you a couple SKU tiers for a lot of their products. Basic would be a little bit less, and it would probably not go to as much choices as far as what you would choose for core, RAM, and storage as well. So if you toggle down here, it probably only gives you a few series as far as the type of instance that you can choose. It only has the A's here, but if you go to standard, it'll give you series A, B, C, D, E, and keeps going, as you can see. So for these particular flavors or series that you can choose for your instance, it all depends on what you're looking for, right? If you want to have just a standard Windows 2022 server where you're just running Active Directory domain services on and a couple of other type of services, utilizing maybe the D series would help, would work. I'm just not having as much power. But if you need something that's a little bit larger, that you would need to do anything kind of like data processing, or if you're running something like big data and require a lot of power, you'd probably go with something else, right? But usually they have great documentations within the public documents that Microsoft has to offer. It'll walk you through what each series is and can help you choose the right instance for your operating system or for your server. So even here it has a little selection here where you could go to need help finding the right VM, right? So you can also go there, but for now we'll go and choose a B series, which shouldn't cost as much. As you can see, it's about 18 cents per hour. So we'll choose this one. It gives you 16 gigabytes of RAM, 0 gigabytes of temporary storage. It's a V2. It gives you 4 virtual CPUs. So we'll choose this one, the B4AS V2. And then for here, you can choose a certain category, right? For instance, if you want something that's more computational, that gives you more optimization when it comes to compute, you can choose this. General purpose, something that is not really, doesn't need a lot of CPU power or a lot of GPU or performance or even memory. You can just utilize general purpose. That'll give you the default for everything. GPU, maybe it's a computer that you're doing some designing or some electronical design or some kind of a very graphical designing on. You could always use this. For GPU, high performance computing, and then memory optimization and storage optimized. So we'll just go with general purpose for now. We'll have run virtual machine, and we'll just keep that as default. We'll choose the pay as you go. Let's say an on-premise license server where you have your own licensing on premise. You could always choose the Azure hybrid benefit where you could bring on your licensing onto your Azure cloud environment as well, where you could utilize that same licensing server hosted on premise to license some of these servers that you have on cloud. Well, we'll just say license included for this one. And a lot of the cloud providers, what they'll always give you is some kind of saving plan, right? If you are having this server longer with for, let's say, up to 3 to 5 years, you'll get a larger discount. And in retrospect, having it this server on this cloud environment for about a year, you will get a lesser discount price. So we'll just do 1 year saving. Compute payment options, we'll just do monthly. Reserved instances. So what this technically is this allows like the reduction of cost on, you know, select services. It'll give you how much, before the market changes, how much a certain service is. You can pay that in advance, and as long as you give them that a commitment of some kind for 1 or 3 year commitment, and then you can save money that way, right? If you reserve an instance beforehand, before the market changes. For that, we won't choose anything for that, or let's say, for instance, we'll just choose the 1 year as well. Oh, so you can choose one or the other. We'll do reserved instances, right? As you can see, once I did that, if I reserve an instance, I saved a lot more. But if I do a 1 year saving plan, so this one allows you to save money across select compute services globally by committing to spend a fixed hourly amount for 1 or 3 years, unlocking a lower price until you reach your hourly commitment. As you can see, that kind of, the price changes there, right? But if you do like a reserved instance, you can save a little bit more. So we'll do that. Here you can choose type of disk. If you choose standard HDD, that's just standard, so there will be pretty much no price with that. But then if you go to, let's say, premium, I think that would change the price, or maybe it doesn't. Yeah, V2. Yep. So if you do premium solid state drive V2, that would charge you about 0.09. So not as much, but then here you could always choose the disk size. This is one here, gig. Number of disks for that, manage disk. You can always choose that. So what we'll do is we'll keep that as standard. If you want to add a snapshot of that disk, no cost for that. Alright. Here, I don't know if the price will change. Let's see if we do here, we can do public internet. We change the region. So that really doesn't change a lot. So we'll just take it back to central, take it back to interregion. All right, so depending on what type of support that you're looking for this compute resource, let's say if you're a developer, that level of support may be different than what's included or the standard or professional direct, right? So let's see here. So if you do the developer, that might give you add $29 to your estimate, and then that would rack you up to $113.85 per month. If you do included, of course that's zero. Standard gives you a little bit more, and professional direct is usually what a lot of the large enterprises use that are able to afford it. So there it is. It gives you a little bit of overview of what to expect as far as cost, and it gives you an upfront what the cost would be. And like I said, if you do the pay as you go, you might save a little bit more. You can do that as well. So right now the monthly charge would be $137 a month, which would be what you would be charged average per month. But we'll do the included, and as you can see, that'd be $137 each month for you without the professional direct support, where you have the included support. So I wrote an article which kind of walks you through, for the most part, how to set up within AWS, how to set up budgeting. And I think you could do something similar as well, like I said earlier, within Azure. But I wrote an article about that, and I can share that with you guys in the description below, the link for that. It'll walk you through how to do it, just in case you get to be able to take advantage of those credits within AWS or even Azure. There's always this article here. So this one actually kind of automates the stoppage of your instances for your compute resources, just to save money over time. And then it also walks you through how to budget as well, when it comes to giving you a better idea of setting up the alerts for that, right? So you can go ahead and take a look at it here. So this document here helps you within AWS, actually helps you set up those billing alerts to be able to monitor your charges within AWS. So you could go through this document here. Also make sure to include this for the description as well, for you guys to take a look at. But yeah, it would be a great thing to do, just to make sure you won't be hit with a surprise at the end of the month for your costs. So let me include this one here. Set up the automation to be able to stop those instances. Usually a set time, usually let's say when you're out of work and when the work hours are done, pretty much put those servers, since they're no use, just allow you to shut the lights off to save some money. Changes to the cent, but like I said, you could always mold things the way you want it, depending on what your requirements are for your solution. Are you running a database server? Are you running you need a server that's high performance, that you're doing large big data processing, or do you need to store large amounts of data. So it all depends on what you're looking for. But then, as you can see, this gives you a better idea of what to expect as far as budgeting when it comes. So there it goes, and just make sure to do a little bit of research before you decide to move to cloud, or maybe practice or utilize the cloud environments. Do a little bit of research as far as what to expect as far as finance, and also set a strategic plan, like I said, on the way to move to cloud, or what your workflow or workload is going to look like moving into cloud. Do you want to, like I said, just have caching or data recovery or disaster recovery, where you have some of your data stored in one of these cloud providers? You can mold it however way you want it, whatever really fits with your requirements or corporation. Well, thank you for joining me, and make sure to hit the link below to do a little bit more research as far as like the budgeting. I'll include those links below, and make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and continue to follow along. Thank you so much for joining in.